What's up, guys? We are back for another year of a mock draft. Our one episode of the year is finally here. I know you guys have been waiting on pins and needles for us. So yeah, we're back. It's the whole crew is here. We got good old Josh Warren with us.
What's happening?
We got Trevor Howard.
Hey guys.
We got the one and only Jeffrey Wills.
Hello, QuadPod listeners, QuadPodders.
Do we have QuadPodders?
QuadPodders, yeah, I think that.
I checked. We have like 20 listeners, so
20. Wow, that's impressive. This is the third year of this, so
20. I mean, honestly, let's just be real honest. This is honestly just for our entertainment, so we don't really care.
I think Jeffrey had a little question to get us going, and then I'm gonna look back at last year's draft and see how bad we really did.
Yeah, so this 2022-23 off season has been a little crazy. I mean, you see a lot of QB moves happening in the league. You see Tom Brady retiring and then coming back out of retirement. You see Devontae Adams getting franchised and then moving to the Raiders. Tyreek Hill being a little greedy boy and saying, I want some of that money, and leaving the Chiefs. I mean, it's a lot of stuff happening. So I just wanted to pose the question for you guys and for our devout listeners. What's been your favorite off-season move so far?
All right, I guess I'll take it. I mean, okay, so quarterback wise, I don't really know if you can call Tom Brady's retirement a real retirement, because homeboy gave this nice tribute to Tampa. He completely double middle fingered New England during that whole thing. I mean, it was kind of one of those things of where even when he retired, putting air quotes around that, he, left the door open that there was something that could happen. I think him coming back is, great. I mean, I was kind of wondering what NFL football was going to look like without Tom Brady. But, I think the most peculiar thing for me is going to have to be the Packers and Devontae Adams. You franchise one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver in the league. He tells you he's not going to play under a franchise tag. You go ahead and do it anyway. And then you send him down to Vegas for 2 picks. I don't really know if there was the such thing as, there was bad blood between him and the front office in Green Bay. But I think, out of that whole thing, who should be commended the most is probably the Green Bay front office for being able to sell Aaron Rodgers on a Green Bay without Devontae Adams, because he knew he wasn't coming back, and he still agreed to a 4-year contract. So, but for me, the most interesting thing has to be, Devontae Adams to the Raiders.
Yeah, as much as it hurts me to see Adams go as a Packers fan, I think it probably was the right call. And for real, Josh, I agree. Green Bay, excellent job in the front office, convincing probably the greatest quarterback of all time, arguably, to stay in Green Bay for another 4 years.
I think another move that's really, really, really big is the Russell Wilson move. Golly, man, that Broncos team is going to be ridiculous. That whole division is going to be unbelievable. But I think Russell Wilson going to the Broncos really finishes up their core. They were a quarterback away. They've been a quarterback away since Peyton Manning left. And so I really think they're going to be right on the Chiefs' heels, right on the Chargers' heels, even with the Raiders. I think that whole division should be able to make the playoffs, and one team will not be able to make it, which is insane. So Russell Wilson to the Broncos is my favorite move.
Yeah, you talked about them catching up, especially with the Chiefs, because they've just dominated over there. But now the biggest move, I think, of this offseason has been them trading Tyreek. Cheetah to Miami is freaking awesome. You've got Cheetah and the Penguin over there with Jalen Waddle. So everybody, okay, so what do y'all think about Tua? Because I think Tua is going to have a breakout season this year. He's got to. Like, this is his money year. Like, you've got those kind of weapons with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. You've got to be able to make plays. And I think he can. I just don't think he's had the opportunities. And I think that's this year. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that's happened this offseason.
Yeah, I'll the thing of the conversation around Tua to me has just been stupid that you're going to question. That you're going to question, a quarterback that, has really not been able to show you what he's got. He's been able to air the ball out, and there's video after video of him throwing a deep ball and it hitting the wide receiver in the hands and him just dropping it. Adding Tyreek Hill and having Waddle down there, this has got to be the make or break year for the Dolphins and Tua specifically, because if Tua and the Dolphins can't make a playoff run this year, then you really have to start questioning the mindset of the Dolphins, front office, because getting rid of Brian Flores, in my opinion, was a really dumb mistake. He brought you back from where you had been. This has got to be make or break year for not just Tua. This has got to be make or break year for the Dolphins and what they've been trying to build the past couple of years.
Those are, golly, man, like we've said, it's been the craziest NFL offseason. Speaking of the previous season, let's take a look at our picks from the 2021 NFL draft. That draft was obviously headlined by the one and only Sunshine himself, Trevor Lawrence, which our very own Trevor Howard nailed that pick, along with Jamar Chase to the Bengals, which should be applauded because we all really ridiculed him for that pick because they needed.
You guys harassed me for that.
All right, Trevor.
Yeah. So Trevor had 2 right picks. Josh had 2 right picks. Josh only had 1 right pick. Josh had Zach Wilson to the Jets, which was a giant shocker. I had the New England Patriots taking Mac Jones, and Jeffrey had the Pittsburgh Steelers taking Najee Harris.
Yeah.
Which was those picks, if you were being honest, those were kind of pretty obvious except for the Jamar Chase pick. So
I don't even know. Even that was pretty obvious. There was a ton of experts that had that. Y'all just for some reason were like not for it.
I don't know though, because originally before the draft really got underway, Mac was supposed to go to the 49ers. San Fran was like real high on the Mac train, and then he just dove, which was probably the best thing for his career though.
Oh, for sure.
So now that we looked at last year's draft, I think our very own Josh Warren has come up to the podium with his first selection in the 2022 NFL mock draft.
Okay, so once again, the lovely Jacksonville Jaguars have the first pick again because they were the suckiest team in the league again this year. I don't know what really positives you can take away from Jacksonville's season other than the fact of they got rid of Urban Meyer. That might be one of the only positives that you can look at from the season. Trevor Lawrence is not a horrible NFL quarterback. His biggest issue, the fact though, is that he couldn't stand up straight long enough to throw the ball. I think he got sacked like 38, 40 times this year. Like I think he had almost the most sacks in the league. He was pressured almost double that number. So with that being said, if Jacksonville really wants to be a, playoff level team, they've got to protect this franchise quarterback that they're trying to build Trevor Lawrence into being. So with that being said, I'm going to go with the Jaguars taking Evan Neal, the offensive tackle from Alabama, as the first overall pick. I know a lot of people are really high on Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan to be the first overall pick. I understand why, but I really think that with the way this draft is shaping up, if Jacksonville really wants to play well next season, they need more beef up front, and Neal definitely gives them that.
Yeah, I think that's a solid pick. Evan Neal is, in my opinion, the best offensive lineman in the draft. He is an absolute dude up front, and I think it's going to be important to keep Trevor Lawrence upright, because without keeping them upright, obviously you can't do anything, as a lot of teams saw last year. But I think that's a good pick. I probably would have picked the same pick if I were you.
Yeah, I love this pick personally. Plus, I mean, they retained Cam Robinson too. So I think Cam Robinson and Evan Neal, both Bama guys, I think they're going to protect him really well right there in Jacksonville.
I think you see that a lot of places where one draft, I know Cam Robinson was a few drafts ago, but they'll take one tackle one draft and the other tackle the other draft and kind of shore up those two positions. Besides quarterback, offensive tackle is the most important position in the NFL, in my opinion. All right. So next up, the Detroit Lions. Oh man, the knee biters, according to their head coach. The Detroit Lions really need everything. And while in most years you take a quarterback here instantly, this quarterback class is not great, in my opinion, and they can wait another year with Jared Goff and kind of be mediocre at best. So I'm going with the hometown boy, Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan here. That gives them a surefire number one defensive end that can to really wreck games. He had 14 sacks this past year, and 3 of those were against Ohio State by themselves, which Ohio State had a pretty decent offensive line, in my opinion. So Aiden Hutchinson's going to be a beast. He's very similar J.J. Watt kind of game-wrecking skill. I think it's going to be pretty good in Detroit for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really high on that pick. I think that is probably the best direction that they can go right now. Like you said, there's not a decent quarterback to replace Goff. And I mean, they just, like you said, they need help everywhere. Why not start on defense?
So with a third pick in the NFL draft, the Houston Texans, I have them selecting Charles Cross from Mississippi State. I think Charles Cross is definitely so some people debate that he's the best. I don't think he's the absolute number one. I think that goes to Evan Neal, but I think Cross is definitely the second best in this draft. And I think in the NFL, you want like game breaking defensive ends that can come in and destroy the pocket, and then you want the other people on the other side that will absolutely not let that happen. So I think Charles Cross right here, he's a redshirt sophomore out of Mississippi State. I think he can come in there, and they've got a young quarterback in Mills, and I think they're deciding to roll with him this year. They honestly need to focus on looking at a quarterback, but for right now, I think having a guy that can protect him is probably the best idea.
Is there any reason you picked Charles Cross over Aquanu, who is largely looked at as one of the better prospects in the draft? I mean, I don't think Cross is a bad pick there. I just wanted to hear what you thought there.
So personally, I feel like Cross is more battle tested. I know that's biased. We're all SEC guys, but so I've got PFF pulled up. So in the Bama game this year, or was it last year, he didn't allow a single pressure on 66 pass blocking attempts. So, I mean, I say that's pretty good. So I say Cross goes against some of the best talent every single game. And I think that's really going to bode well for the NFL in just translation.
All righty. For the fourth pick in the NFL draft, I chose Ahmed Gardner, the cornerback out of Cincinnati. Here, just looking at what they need, I almost went with Stingley out of LSU, but he hasn't played much in recent times, and so I wasn't sure if I wanted if they would go with him. So I went with the 6 foot 3 inch man, um, originally out of Detroit. Yeah. So, some strengths of his game. He's one of the bigger corners. If you look at his size, he's 6'3", 190. In the draft, he's a athlete. I think anyone who watched Cincinnati would be able to tell how strong he was, how important he was to them. He had 40 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 3 picks, defended 4 passes. And the only weakness that I personally see with his game, he's a bit grabby. He gives away sloppy fouls sometimes because he can't cut as quickly as some of those more agile receivers. But against the bigger, deep threats that he's going to be coming against, like Devontae Adams in the NFL, I think he will be a great cornerback for them. Yeah.
It's a really good pick there. I've seen him start to fly up draft boards. He has not given up a touchdown in college, which is quite impressive for playing against Alabama, Notre Dame, and some other Georgia last year. That's some pretty good competition there, in my opinion. So
Yeah, I would say Gardner has the potential to probably be maybe the best player in the draft. I mean, like you said, Trey, I mean, he didn't give up anything in college. And I like you said, I mean, I think he even played against like Ohio State. So I mean, he's going up against those receivers, Bama's receivers. I mean, in the playoff game, I mean, we didn't even throw the ball because we were scared to throw it down the field. So I think that's a great pick. And honestly, in any other year, he could be the first round or like the first overall pick.
All right. Number 5 goes to the lovely New York Giants. There's kind of a theme with these teams that are always, top 5, top 7 in the draft. I picked for the Giants, I picked Aquanu from NC State. Just for the simple fact of, watching the Giants play this year, the like couple of times that I did, it honestly, they probably could have played better if they didn't have their offensive line on the field. I'm just being honest. I mean, they just looked like they were struggling to like I honestly felt like at some points I could have went out there with my 180-pound white boy self and sacked the quarterback the way that offensive line was playing. And so I think Aquanu brings, experience. He brings, game IQ. He brings just the know-how of his position.
So number 6, the Carolina Panthers. A lot similar to a lot of our teams we've talked about so far. A lot of these teams need everything, and you can't just pick one pick and fix the franchise. So I know I mentioned earlier that this is a rough quarterback class, but honestly, my pick here would probably be a better bet than Sam Darnold and, yes, the man himself, Cam Newton. Sadly, he's an old man now. He's past his prime. So I have the Carolina Panthers selecting Kenny Pickett, quarterback out of Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett had a really, 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 really good year this year. He threw for 4,319 yards to be exact, 42 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Had a really productive year. I think Kenny Pickett has a really good upside in this draft. He's a guy, he can be mobile when he needs to. He can be a pocket passer when he needs to. That's a lot. This draft has a lot of mobile guys. So I think finding a guy that can stand in the NFL pocket, you don't see a lot of very mobile guys in the NFL anymore. I know we have like Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, but your more successful guys are pocket passers that are going to throw the ball downfield that are mobile enough to get away with it. So I got Kenny Pickett going to Carolina.
That's an that's an interesting pick. Kind of surprised he's the first quarterback that you would go with. I'm curious to know why you go with him over Matt Corral.
I think it's injuries. Matt Corral, I know this last injury he had was pretty rough in the Sugar Bowl, but I think I think Corral's great. Obviously, I actually got to see him up close in person at Jordan Hare this season, and he played really well. I just think Kenny Pickett maybe fits better in their offense. I don't know. Matt Corral had a really good offense in Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin, but maybe who knows? I was a big proponent that Mac Jones was a system quarterback, and if Matt Corral gets the right system, who knows? He could be great. I think Kenny Pickett kind of fits any system, in my opinion. He can kind of do it all.
All right. So with pick number 7, the New York Giants select Trayvon Walker, defensive end from Georgia. Okay. So I felt like I reached a little bit with this pick, but I feel that in this draft, Georgia is about to do something that LSU did in 2019. I think everybody is going to be so high on Georgia that they're going to be drinking the Georgia Kool-Aid that they're going to get so many players picked. But that's not without cause because Trayvon Walker is freaking amazing. He's like 6'5", 275 pounds. He's like super fast. In the national championship game, he had a career high of 7 pressures. I mean, dude can flat out play. And I feel like he's kind of underachieved in his time in Georgia. But like, I think this year, especially with Jordan Davis, I think they all kind of brought it together. As much as I hate Georgia, I think they all came together and had like one of the best defenses of all time in college football history. And I think the Giants could really use that. They just need everything like we talked about. So I think with that first pick, they go for more of like protection. And then this pick, I think they're going for somebody that can explode on opposing offenses and just cause havoc.
I think with Trayvon Walker, you get that. You can put him in the middle. They have a more 3-4 defensive front, so you can play him on the edge, maybe even flex him out to that Russian linebacker, or you play him in the middle as defensive tackle. He's got a lot of flexibility that I like. And shout out to my man Cameron Teal. He actually went to high school with him. A buddy of mine that goes to Troy with me. He went to high school with Trayvon Walker, so that's pretty cool.
All righty. For the 8th pick in the NFL draft, I have the Atlanta Falcons choosing Garrett Wilson, wide receiver from Ohio State. So this pick, obviously the Falcons just got rid of their longtime quarterback and Matt Ryan, picking up Marcus Mariota. And I saw them not trying to draft a starter over Mariota because I think when he was in Tennessee at the beginning of his time, he was pretty good. His turnover rate is not the best. I know that's why they kind of got rid of him because they saw Tannehill as a more reasonable option going forward, trustworthy option going forward, should I say. Garrett Wilson, he in 2021, he had 12 receiving touchdowns in 11 games, which is pretty ridiculous. He was 8th, I think, in the nation, or tied for 8th in the nation for receiving touchdowns. He's a really fast dude. He's got great acceleration in the longer routes. And he's got really instinctive hands, which has stuck out to scouts during the combine. But the only downside with Wilson, I would say, is his route running ability. He's a little sloppy at first with his footwork. And I think look at someone like Devontae Smith, who was just ridiculous out route running, whose feet are like perfect. I think Garrett Wilson is a good shout here. He could have gone with Jameson Williams from Alabama, but he just got hurt during the national championship game, and so I wanted to play it safe. I think they're gonna watch out for injuries more so in these top 10 picks, which I think Wilson is gonna slot in at number 8.
Yeah, I really like this pick, especially with Ridley. Unforeseen gambling circumstances. Apparently, you can't do that in the NFL, but
Trevor, he doesn't have a gambling addiction.
it was just like $1,200, Trey.
Golly.
But yeah, I think Garrett Wilson could make the argument he is maybe the best receiver in this draft. This is a wide receiver heavy draft, but if you watch that Rose Bowl, they just Ohio State's receivers this year were just so explosive. And for the Falcons right now, they need some playmakers because they're struggling, especially with Ridley gone, Julio left last year, and then good old Matt Ryan is no longer with us. He's now at the Colts, so they need a lot.
Cordero Patterson is going to play every position this year for the Atlanta Falcons. Bookmark this, put that out there. Atlanta fans are down bad. They lost Freddie Freeman and Matt Ryan in the same week. So yeah.
Don't even try and compare Freddie Freeman and Matt Ryan. Don't even try that. Like there's no comparison there.
So Josh, you're up next with the Seattle Seahawks.
All right. Seattle is in this really weird spot. They traded away their golden boy in Russell Wilson. And so, where do you go from there? They got Drew Lock from Denver. It looks like they're gonna roll with him. All power to them. They may end up trying to snag a quarterback at 9. I don't see them doing it. I have them picking Devin Lloyd, the linebacker from Utah. And he's a really solid player. I mean, they beat Oregon twice. And they didn't just beat Oregon by a little bit. They absolutely slaughtered Oregon both times they played. And he was a huge part of that. This man was flying around that defense like I've never seen a linebacker move before. He was involved in every negative play that Oregon had when they were playing, it seemed like. And I think Seattle needs, an adrenaline shot in that defense. And I really think that Lloyd can be that shot in the arm that Seattle is needing. So that's why I'm taking him and not giving them a quarterback.
That's a good pick. Obviously they released Bobby Wagner, another longtime staple of the Seahawks. So I think going ahead and going, hey, replacing that dude is very, very, very important. You can worry about quarterback next year when baby Russell Wilson's coming out in the draft, but go linebacker, rebuild the quarterback of your defense first. And yes, Bryce Young is baby Russell Wilson, as much as it pains me to say.
I feel like it's kind of sad. The Legion of Boom is just over. Like, there's nobody left now from that team. Like, it's just the end of an era.
But old Pete Carroll's still there somehow.
What is he, like 90 now? Like, how old is this man?
He's pretty
like
old. He's got to be 70. He's older than Nick Saban.
He's older. I'm about to say, I thought he was Saban's age.
I think he might be older. Like maybe 70.
All right. I say he's 76. Trevor, how old did you say he is?
75. I don't know.
Jeffrey.
74.
You're all wrong.
Love the Price is Right.
You were all wrong.
What was it?
Pete Carroll is 70 years old.
No way.
So dang.
Born September 15th, 1951.
Whew. Oh, man. All right, next up, we got the New York Jets again picking. These New York teams have gotten
Jets, Jets.
Yeah. So Jeffrey went Ahmad Gardner with his first Jets pick, which was a really good pick in my opinion. I'm going to stay on the defensive side of the ball and stop a slide that is happening in our mock draft. I'm going to go Kayvon Thibodeau, defensive end out of Oregon. This dude came in with all sorts of hoopla and all sorts of stuff. This man, he had a really good freshman season with 9 sacks, a little slower of a 2020, like most people with the delayed season. This past year had 7 sacks, battled some injuries. I think he's got a really big ceiling. A lot of teams are going to really look at him for character concerns. It's very similar to Laramie Tunsil coming out of Ole Miss. Obviously, everyone knows what happened draft night with him. Took a really big slide. See that happening with Kayvon Thibodeau. I think Thibodeau's got a lot of upside. The Jets really need pass rush. Carl Lawson got hurt last year, so that really hurt them. If you have Carl Lawson, Quentin Williams, Kayvon Thibodeau on the same defensive line, that's going to be a little scary for the AFC East. And so I think Kayvon Thibodeau can come in immediately, be their defensive end of the future, and really wreak some havoc up there.
I think Thibodeau has a high risk, high reward kind of thing. Like, I think he can either be a generational player or he's going to be an absolute bust. I just when I look at him, I kind of see like a Robert Kandichi kind of guy. He can come in there and like absolutely cause havoc one day and then just like not give a flying flip the next. I just don't know if he's going to be worth a top 10 pick. I think he's got the potential to be like the number 1 or 2 pick, but I just don't know. Like you said, he's got character concerns and just all this stuff he's been spewing in the media. I just don't know about him. So with the 11th pick, the Washington Commanders, the now Commanders, no longer the football team, are picking Kyle Hamilton, safety from Notre Dame. I didn't really know much about him, honestly. PFF has him as like the number 2 player on their big board, so I guess that makes him pretty good. He's 6'4", 220. He's a junior. He didn't play like the final 5 games of this season. He had a knee injury, but he had 3 picks, and I mean, he looks the part. Dude is a physical specimen, and I think with this pick right here for Washington, they're going to go best available and honestly find somebody to replace Landon Collins, which they just released.
I think with safeties, it's hard because you've had, I mean, looking at the past couple of drafts, you have Isaiah Simmons, Derwin James, these like unreal freaks of athletes. And then Hamilton didn't test well at the draft, but I feel like he's more of your Jamal Adams type safety of, he's not going to be the one speeding around the field, but he's going to be the one going and getting the sacks, going and playing he could play linebacker some plays, he could play safety. I think Hamilton's going to be one of those guys you look back and go, why did we not pick him like in the top 3? I think he's going to be one of those guys that's in the league for a very long time, but not as athletic as some of these past safeties. But yeah, I think that's a good pick here. I'm interested to know why you went safety other than best player available instead of quarterback, because Carson Wentz is now their quarterback.
I mean, you're right. I mean, they really could have gone. We have Malik Willis going later on in the draft. I mean, they really could have used a Malik Willis right here, but I think with this draft class being one of maybe the worst in a while we've seen, maybe since probably like that, maybe like 20, what was that, Jameis Winston, Mariota drafted, like they were just the top 2 and there was like nobody else really. I mean, I think this could be one of the weakest when next year you've got one of the best quarterback drafts coming up with Stroud and Bryce Young and everybody coming up. So I just kind of have them. I think they're going to just find a really good player. They're already a dumpster fire right now. I mean, they can't get much worse. I mean, the expectations for them are extremely low. So I think they kind of waited out another year, and I think they wait and get their quarterback next year.
Makes sense. All right, Jeffrey. Vikings.
Yeah, Vikings with the 12th pick. Just looking at some of their needs, they need some help on the defensive end, but they picked up Harrison Phillips, Jordan Hicks, and Zadarius Smith this offseason. So I was looking at the secondary, looking at some of the available athletes, and why not pick the best athlete probably in the draft, Derek Stingley Jr., out of LSU. He Being from the SEC, getting to see him play a good bit, he is a monster. I think he commands a defense pretty well, even from a cornerback. He calls games, which is a good thing to have on your team, on your defense, especially. Yeah, but all the scouts are saying he's one of the best athletes. Good mix of size, strength, explosiveness. He's only 6 foot, but he's 190, and so he's got a good bit of muscle on him. The only downsides I could see with Stingley Jr. are one, he hasn't played but 10 games in 2 seasons. That kind of hurts him a little bit. But he still, you look at what he brings, the explosiveness, and just his ability to just stick to a receiver is pretty outstanding. He's not as good as in run support, but I think if you put him in for special packages or to cover up, lock down that speedy receiver that most teams have, he's a great shout.
Do you think we'll see like freshman year Derek Stingley with him going to the NFL, like where he's got more support? When at LSU, he became the guy the second and third year where he was getting all the targets, when in his freshman year, there was other guys and he wasn't the main one. So he was able to, I think he led the NCAA in interceptions his freshman year. So do you think he'll get back to like that kind of form?
I think if he doesn't have the pressure to be that guy, the ceiling is the limit, like he can become one of the most important cornerbacks for the Vikings or for any team that drafts him if he doesn't have that pressure. I think that got to him. I think him also being injured got to him a little bit. Like I still have to put out this level that they expect from me because I'm that guy as he was at LSU. But I think the pressure will be off a little bit, honestly.
All right. So with the 13th pick, I've got the Texans taking David. How you say his last name? Ojabo from Michigan. He kind of played second fiddle to Aiden Hutchinson a little bit. That Hutchinson was really the guy that took like all the air out of the room when it came to the Michigan defense. And so you really didn't hear a lot about these other guys, but he really solid player. He really was a, anchor for that Michigan defense that throughout the year was phenomenally stout until they ran into the gauntlet that was the freaking Georgia Bulldogs and got their teeth kicked in. The Texans have every problem under the sun that you could name when it comes to what hole do we need to cover. And I'm a defensive guy. And so when there's holes on both sides of the ball, my immediate reaction is to fix the hole that's on the defense. And to me, the biggest hole that Houston has right now is that defensive end slot. And so that's why I'm picking him to go there.
I think Ojabo, it reminds me a little bit of, obviously being an Auburn fan, I kind of look back to when Derek Brown was at Auburn and it was like, oh, Derek Brown. Then you had Marlon Davidson on the other side wrecking havoc too, but no one was talking about him. So Ojabo and Hutchinson are a lot like that. I think Ojabo is more of the kind of twitchy off the edge guy than Hutchinson's just kind of beat the man and get to the quarterback. So I think Ojabo, once he gets healthy, he'll really help that Texans defense. All right, up next we have the Baltimore Ravens. This was interesting. The Ravens, it was weird to see them in this spot because Lamar Jackson is one of the more premier quarterbacks in the league. With him being hurt this last year, you kind of fell off a cliff a little bit. I went with the big man, Jordan Davis, defensive tackle out of Georgia. He turned a lot of heads with his 4.78 40 time, which a grown man that is 6'6", 340 pounds should not be able to run that fast. So Jordan Davis is a really, really, really good player. His stats don't tell the story. He doesn't have a lot of sacks. He doesn't have a lot of tackles, but he's going to eat up space on the Ravens defense. He's going to be the guy that is running up the middle, making sure your edge guys can get to the quarterback. I think Jordan Davis is going to play a long time in the NFL, and I think he's going to wreak havoc on any defense he's on. So I think he's going to be a really, really good player, and I think the Ravens are going to be running up to the board with this one since he's still on the board at 14.
So following the Georgia trend right here, with the 15th pick, with Philadelphia's first pick, I have them selecting Nakobe Dean out of Georgia. So I kind of said this earlier. There's so many guys in this Georgia defense. As much as I literally cannot stand Georgia, they've got some dudes, and I think everybody's gonna reap the benefits of them. And I think Nakobe Dean, very versatile linebacker. I think he could come in and bring back that kind of stingy Philly defense that they like to play so much. He's fast. He's 6 foot 225. He's young. I mean, like, dude can play. He's a ball player, and I think Philly's looking to go back to that smash mouth defense, and I think he'd be a really good addition to that.
Yeah, I agree. Philly's got to try to make, a turnaround from, where they've been the past couple of years. And, their staple for those so many years was that smash mouth defense. And, like you said, as much as I strongly, strongly dislike Georgia, this is going to be the same thing to where when everyone reaped the benefits of that, voodoo season that LSU had on offense, they're going to reap the benefits of this, spectacular defense that Kirby Smart put together.
Does that mean that Georgia now has like 10 years of bad luck now? Is it going to be like 40 more years since until the next time they win a national championship?
I hope so, man.
I hope so. I think this is a Georgia hate podcast. I think that's what we're going to call it now. Instead of the quad pods, we hate Georgia.
Look, I love the Braves. They lost Freddie Freeman. This is the start. This is the beginning of the end. I hope, fingers crossed, it's the beginning of the end, because I do not want this anymore.
Fingers crossed that, like, if anything worse can happen to the state of Georgia, like, they lost Matt Ryan and Freddie Freeman. Maybe next Kirby Smart leaves and goes to like Syracuse or something. Like that would be beautiful.
Auburn. Kirby, come to Auburn, please.
Do you really want that bowl cut down there, Trey?
I don't care. I need something, man.
It was Harson on fire down there.
Anywho, let's get back to Philly because they have the 16th pick. Okay, realistically here, I think this pick's going to be traded away. I just don't see them having 3 first-round picks unless they really are just going for it this year. But this is good. I believe the kids call it fodder for the Eagles to hold on to. But yeah, here I have, since I don't know who would trade it, I'm just going to go with it. I think they're going to pick up Dax Hill, who's the safety out of Michigan. He's normally a safety, but he plays in the nickel. Scouts look at him and they're like, this guy has the potential to be like a great cornerback in the league if that's the route coaches want to take him. But just given the Eagles some more defensive cover, and so the only problem I have with him is he's a little slow at recognizing routes, which in the NFL, everything. I think all of us have played sports at the lowest level. It's a lot slower, and as it gets tougher, high school, college, professional, it gets faster and faster. And so I think that's something that will might be a possible thing that might burn him in the NFL. But I think if he just takes his time, studies film, and just practices, that it'll be fun and he'll be a great addition. to that Eagles team?
Okay, so 17 is the Los Angeles Chargers, not to be confused with the Super Bowl winning Rams, because like those California cities have like 7 NFL teams per city for whatever reason. The Chargers are, a weird team. Offensively, they're not horrible. I mean, Herbert is a really good quarterback. I like him out there. I think their biggest issue this year was protecting Herbert and making sure homeboy could stay upright, be able to move when needed, and not have to move because he absolutely had to. So with that being said, I am going to take Keon Green, the offensive lineman out of Texas A&M. Once again, I loathe Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher. Strongly dislike Jimbo Fisher. Just want to make that publicly known. But when Texas A&M beat Alabama, that was hard to say. Green was one of the reasons why, because he really helped shut down that Alabama defense that was supposed to be this dominant force of the year. And so with that being said, I really feel like, like we've said before, we're all SEC guys, but he's going against the best division in the best conference in the country year after year and week after week. And if you're the Chargers, you want that guy protecting your quarterback. And so that's why Green, to me, is probably the best fit for the Chargers right here at 17. It's open to debate, but that's just my personal feelings.
You bring them out of the best division in college football and put them in the best division in NFL with, those pass rushing duos. So like you got Chandler Jones and Max Crosby with the Raiders, Chris Jones still with the Chiefs, Broncos. You still got Bradley Chubb and a few others there. It's just he's lucky he's not playing against. Practice is going to suck for this man playing against Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. But yeah, I agree. I think the Chargers really would have been in the playoffs if they would have had a better offensive line and, didn't take a timeout and just let it go to a tie against the Raiders. But yeah, good pick there.
Yeah, Josh, my experience with him is the same as yours. If you can make Calzone man look like an all-pro quarterback, then you're doing something right.
Facts.
Dude's a monster.
You speak no slander of Mr. Calzone. Only nice things about the Calzone.
What is his real last name? Is it Calzada?
Calzada.
Yeah, Calzada.
Okay.
Well, yeah, my thing, he just for making him look like the MVP of the Blam NFL, he should probably be higher, but this is a great pick, especially Herbert. He definitely needs a protection. He kind of felt like the second quarterback behind Burrow that really needed that help, and Burrow kind of got that this year. So I think Chargers are going to start doing that too.
I think this is a hot take probably, but Justin Herbert is the best quarterback in that division. Hot take. I think if you get a solid offensive line in front of him, I honestly think he's better than Derek Carr, Patrick Mahomes, and Russell Wilson's washed at this point in his career. And so, Herbert has more composure than Mahomes. You see Mahomes, what happened? Was it the Super Bowl where he just kept running backwards 40 yards and chunking it like he was playing NCAA? Like, that's not how we do it. Justin Herbert would stay in the pocket and just get hit. And so, that's what he has to do to get a pass through to Mike Williams, or to Keenan Allen. He kept doing it consistently. And he's the only reason they made it that far in the playoffs. But I think with this pick, Green going, I think adding size and stability to that front line, don't be shocked if the Chargers win the division.
I don't know if I'd say Herbert's the best quarterback in that division, but he's definitely top 3, maybe top 2. I mean,
Dude, like, he's
Mahomes
simply the
is-
best because his brother is not Jackson Mahomes. Okay,
That's facts. I mean, let's just go ahead and say it. I mean, that's facts.
that in itself puts you above at least Patrick Mahomes.
That's facts.
Cold takes exposed. We have liftoff.
Jeffrey, I like that. That was good.
Good.
Josh Allen might be the only one in the AFC that it comes close to him.
That sounds great. So next up, speaking of great quarterback play, we have the New Orleans Saints and famous Jameis Winston, probably my least favorite quarterback Auburn has ever played against.
Before you start that, I think we really need to say a prayer for the city of New Orleans, because the first season you lose Drew Brees. That's, a gut punch in itself. And now they've lost Sean Payton. And so, I mean, the New Orleans Saints are in this like funk right now of who else are we going to lose that's going to just like be the final stake in the heart.
Zion Williamson.
Dude, no, it was Alvin Kamara. Remember, he got arrested.
Kamara, yeah.
Oh, shoot. Forgot about that one.
Anyway, who you picking?
I'm going Chris Olave. I'm going to double up with the Saints on Ohio State receivers with his buddy Michael Thomas. I really this receiver class is one of the better. I feel like every year the receiver class gets better. But I think Olave had an insane year with CJ Stroud. He went for 936 yards and 13 touchdowns. He broke the record for Ohio State's career touchdowns. So I think he's you can put him as a number 2 guy on offense and really let him just take the pressure off of Michael Thomas. Josh, you have a question.
Do you think Michael Thomas plays this season?
If they're running slants, yes.
It's like he didn't touch the field once last season.
Yeah, he did. He got locked up by Carlton Davis last year.
What season was it when he was hurt the whole year?
That's been his whole career.
Okay, well, I thought it was this year where he barely played.
I
Yeah,
think
it was this year, wasn't it?
it was okay. One of the
Yeah.
years he got like absolutely locked down by.
Yeah, I don't think it was this year because I think I made the mistake of drafting him in my fantasy team, and I like hot dropped him after week 2.
Who won our fantasy league again?
I don't care.
Was it Jeffrey or was it me? I think it was
This
Jeffrey.
year, I didn't. I won last year. I think.
I
Trevor
don't,
might
even,
have
I don't
won.
even think it was somebody.
It was.
Anyway.
I came in second because I somehow even made the game because I'd lost I was like
Dude,
8-8.
Yes,
Stupid.
Trevor. I think it was Carson. I think.
He beat me by like 3 points.
Yeah,
I
because
don't know. I should've
you beat
been
me
there.
somehow because I had a terrible week, 2 weeks. So anyway, less fantasy football, but I think Olave fits well in that offense. He'll be similar to how he was at Ohio State. Like you had Garrett Wilson and Njigba at the other side, and you had Olave, probably more slot guy. So I think Olave fits really well in the offense. He'll be a threat in New Orleans for old famous Jameis.
Okay, so with the 19th pick in the NFL draft, the Philadelphia Eagles will select Jamison Williams. So I don't think they're actually going to pick Jamison Williams as much as I wish they would draft Jamison Williams because I think he's amazing. But yeah, I mean, honestly, this pick would be amazing if he could somehow drop down to them at this pick. I mean, Jamison Williams is a playmaker, and I know I'm biased speaking about this as a Bama fan, but my man's is fast. He's blazing. He's got blazing speed, and I think Hurts. I think this is gonna be his year. I think he's been like developing pretty nicely as a starter. He's been working on his passing game, and I think if you give him a guy that can come in there and just absolutely torch secondaries with his speed, and you match him along with Devontae Smith, I think you could make something really special there in Philly.
I like this pick and I hate this pick. I want him to go to New England and be with Mac.
Oh, same. Me too.
I mean, I love this because I mean, you stick him on one side and you put, Devontae on the other side, and Jalen. I mean, and Hurts can just decide which general direction he wants to throw the ball. I mean, they need it. I mean, they need another shot in the arm when it comes to the offense because, I mean, everybody learned very early on in the year that, if you cover Devontae Smith, then Hurts either has to run or find someone else. And he's not the best when his first target gets taken over. And so I like it.
Another thing, I feel like, I don't know if this is just recency bias, but I feel like NFL teams have been trying to draft like college duos. You've seen it a lot with like LSU pairs being matched up, Bama pairs. I think this could be another one. I don't know if this is going to be a continuing trend, but I feel like the chemistry is there with a lot of these guys, and I feel like that can be accounted for. Like I know that none of them played together because Jameson came his last year, but I feel like those ties still exist with all these teams. So I think that could be a factor we start seeing in later years.
All righty. We are now to the 20th pick with the Pittsburgh Steelers. In the offseason, we've seen old Big Ben retire. Sad day for no one. I think everyone's pretty happy. Even Steelers fans, I think, are happy to see Roethlisberger get out. But they haven't helped. The front office has not helped themselves with picking up Trubisky to come in. I just don't understand what they're doing. But just looking at, I don't think they would run the season with old Mitch as their starter. So I was looking at the QBs and scheme fits and who I think would match rather well. And we see arguably one of the top two quarterbacks of this draft class still up for us, Matt Corral. If you have watched Ole Miss in the past few seasons, under Lane Kiffin, Matt Corral came to light. Was one of you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but Plumlee was it was Corral, then he got hurt, and then Plumlee came in, and then when Lane Kiffin came back, he gave Corral back that starting job, and I think he was nothing short of fantastic for the Land Sharks. Is that what they are now? Hotty toddy. But the only thing that I think, just watching him this past season, when he runs, he's a little he runs into some dangerous situations sometimes. I don't think that's something that NFL front offices want their quarterback to do, because they don't want to draft a new quarterback every 3 years. They want him to be healthy, so they can have a long career like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Big Ben. But one thing I do think is awesome, and he fits, in my opinion, the Pittsburgh vibe of the Steelers, is his toughness. I forget if it was in the bowl game or one of the last few games of the season where he was hurt and he came off, and then he just was like, no, I'm going right back in. Like, he got that shot and he went back around that field with like a broken ankle or something.
That was the Auburn game.
Was it the Auburn game?
That was the Auburn game, yeah.
He was just like, I'm going to play this game. I don't care. Like, we're going to win. And I'm pretty sure they won.
They didn't win.
I'm surprised. But like he wants to be the guy who calls the shots. And I think he would fit that vibe pretty well in Pittsburgh. What do you guys think about Matty Corral?
Oh, I like it. I think I like Matt Corral, but like I said earlier, I think he's a little injury prone, obviously, with this last injury. I think it was an ankle injury. I think whatever it was, he made the decision to play in the bowl game, which I supported, obviously, because love watching bowl games, love watching the players play in the bowl games. But getting hurt in that didn't help him there. I think he, like you said, he fits the system really well. You don't want a guy like maybe Malik Willis run the offense just yet after a long time of Big Ben. So I think Corral would be pretty well. I mean, I see you don't believe in Mitch Berg.
Who does?
Mitchell Trubisky, baby. The North Carolina's favorite son, except for he's not. But yeah, I like the pick. I think it's pretty good.
I agree. I
really
like it.
think- I don't think Corral's that injury prone. I mean, like I know he got hurt, but I don't know. That dude's tough. I mean, like if you watch that Tennessee game, he ran the ball like 80 times, like just kept getting back up after mustard and golf balls were thrown.
I was
all
about to
over
say the golf ball got thrown at him.
I feel like you draft him. I don't know if he'll translate as well as some of these other guys to the NFL, which I could be totally wrong, but I feel like you draft him because of his just spirit. Like he's a fighter. He'll come in there and just win a game for you, just running the ball.
All right. Number 21 is the New England Patriots. New England's in a fun place right now. I love Bill Belichick. I like the Patriots. I like Mac Jones a little bit. I think he's pretty great, if you so ask me. I was watching TikTok the other night, and Colin Coward, whatever his name is, that dude's a complete idiot. He's on here talking about how the Patriots are going in the complete wrong direction, having Mac as quarterback. I think you got to give Mac somebody to throw the ball to. You can't have a quarterback like Mac who can air the ball out, and he showed during the season he can throw the ball. It's just difficult to do it when you don't have anybody to throw it to. With that being said, I think Traylon Burks from Arkansas is probably gonna fit well into Belichick's system in New England for that offense. He taking this from a Bama fan perspective, he lit us up when they played us. I mean, he was one of the main offensive weapons for Arkansas this year. Arkansas is beginning to make that comeback that's kind of scary. He's strong, he's fast, he's able to make cuts. I think he's what the Patriots are looking for. I would much rather that Jameson Williams fall a couple of more slots and him get taken here, but we don't always get what we want. So Traylon Burks for me probably is the best fit that's on the board for the Patriots. What say you guys?
Good pick. I don't like the Patriots, but good pick. I like Traylon Burks. I think he's going to be a really good NFL player. I've seen a lot of people compare him to Deebo Samuel, which that's the trendy thing to do now is everyone needs a Deebo Samuel that does everything. But yeah, I like Traylon Burks, so I think he'll do pretty well. All right, next up, we have the Green Bay Packers. This pick was traded to the Packers by the Raiders. Jeffrey is so excited that they were gifted this pick, one of the 2 picks for Devontae Adams. Not even 2 first-round picks. But yeah, obviously, speaking of the man himself, there's a giant gaping hole where number 17 needs to be filled, and I think that will be filled by the one and only Drake London out of USC. Drake London had a really good year this year before getting hurt. In his 8 games played, he had 1,084 yards and 7 touchdowns, and he was in a system where they were having musical quarterbacks too, so it was even more impressive that he was able to get those yards up. I think he's a really physical receiver. I think he's going to be the jump ball guy Aaron Rodgers needs after Devontae Adams is gone. And I think he's a dang sure good Devontae Adams replacement if there ever will be one, I think. Jeffrey, I'm interested to see what you think of the Green Bay Packers selection here.
Trey, I think I make this joke every time we draft and it comes to the Packers. But what makes you think they're not going to go with a defensive player here? because that's their trend. If you look, the last time in like the last 5 seasons they've drafted an offensive player, it was to be a really expensive, pretty backup quarterback in Jordan Love. And so what makes you think? I see the need, but the off season is still going to be around for a little bit. I mean, you got a few more months till the season starts. What makes you think that they won't go straight for another defensive player and pick someone off like for pretty cheap in the free agency?
I think that's a very, good analysis because, the Packers are very prone to doing that. I just think that the Packers front office realizes that if you're going to keep your star quarterback happy, you need to give him something now. And I think taking a receiver in the draft shows him that you're committed to helping him move that offense along.
How do y'all feel about getting like a Julio Jones in free agency for pretty cheap? Kind of like a farewell tour because I feel like Julio doesn't have that much time left. If he might retire early, I don't know. But if you sign him on to like a 1-year deal, gave Rodgers that kind of weapon, then you sign Drake London right here in the draft. I mean, give him some targets for his last few years as a pro. I mean, what do y'all think about that?
That's a good decent option. I'll be interested to hear the Packer fan perspective there.
I mean, I think Julio, he would add depth, if anything. We're not talking about the Falcons, Julio Jones. We're talking about the guy who was just on the Titans, who was just dropped from the Titans, right? So like, I think he would add something because we did lose a few other wide receivers recently. So I think adding him would add a deep threat like Devontae, but I don't think he would be as important or as explosive as Devontae was for us.
For sure. Well, if it's the trend you're saying, they're gonna sign Julio to like a 1-year like minimum deal and then draft Sam Howell. That might be their route.
That only makes sense,
All right. So with the 23rd pick in the draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Jermaine Johnson, the second defensive end from Florida State. I don't know too much about this guy either. I know I've said that a few times, but this guy was a 2-star coming out of high school. So, I mean, he's made a name for himself as one of the ACC's best defenders in the past, like 3-4 years. PFF has him coming out as the 26th pick. So I feel like this is a decent target for him to fall to Arizona here. Arizona, they need some good edge rushers coming in, causing some more havoc. They kind of need a defense that matches their offense, what they're going right now, because their offense is pretty loaded. So I think having a defense that matches that will make them more competitive.
Question for you about the Arizona Cardinals, maybe not much to do with Jermaine Johnson. Is Kyler Murray their quarterback in 2 years?
I think so. Personally, I think that'd be crazy to let him go. I think he's had like a few down moments, but overall he's looked pretty good.
Mr. Hot Take Man?
Someone has to give, and I don't think it's going to be the Cardinals front office, but I think they'll see Kyler Murray as a replaceable asset, and then he'll go to one of their in-conference rivals, and he'll smoke them a couple of games a season, and they'll realize what a mistake they made.
Maybe he'll go up to Seattle.
Good shout.
Not a bad pick.
Seattle. Shoot. I mean, the Rams are going to need somebody to play quarterback here in a few years.
Probably next year.
Matthew Stafford.
Tom Brady's going to the Rams.
Oh, no.
All righty. Moving right along.
We them boys.
We dim boys.
Jeffrey Wills, you are now Jerry Jones.
I'm Jerry Jones on my personal yacht, picking every pick just for me. Yeah, so got the Dallas Cowboys here at pick number 24. Let's jump straight to it. I picked George Pickens, wide receiver out of Georgia. Originally a Hoover boy, Hoover, Alabama, for all you Alabamians out there. But yeah, I think George Pickens, I think Trey probably has a love-hate relationship with George Pickens.
Hate that man. Hate that man.
He good flip-flopper, but for Georgia, he's been decent, you know. He's a little injury prone. I think that's just a thing coming when you play in the SEC. You get hit so many times if you're on the offensive side of the ball. If you're not made of steel like all these Alabama players, then like you just get got. And I think we see that with George Pickens, which is one of like his downsides. He has the height. He's 6'3", but he's pretty small. After that, he's just 195. But he has really good focus when when catches need to be caught. When he's in traffic, has 3 guys on him, needs to make a play, I would throw it to George Pickens if I could throw it that far or that accurately. There be it. But he also has tremendous grip strength, which I think makes him stand out from this receiving core. Like if he gets his fingertips on it, it's his. Like you're not gonna knock it away. It's not gonna be a fumbled, dropped ball or something. Like he's gonna hold on to it. But yeah, I think George Pickens here. They lost Amari. I think that's gonna bite them themselves in the backside if they don't pick up a wide receiver here. And I think Pickens happens to be the best one left.
Well, then I guess we'll move right along to the Buffalo Bills. I mean, I don't know what negatives to say about Buffalo other than probably their defense. Offensively, Josh Allen, like that man is freaking amazing. And that pains me to say as a Pats fan. But I mean, you got to recognize, where the game is, and Josh Allen is like the stuff right now.
Second best QB, yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, he plays his role perfectly for what Buffalo needs. On the defensive side of the ball, it got shown, very painfully sometimes for Buffalo that out wide at their cornerback position, they struggled to cover in some of these games. And so with that, I am taking at 25 Andrew Booth, who is out of Clemson, which is weird that, we haven't seen a Clemson guy yet, but, Clemson had a weird year. They lost to Georgia in that weird defensive showdown, and they just sucked the rest of the year. However you say their quarterback's last name, he was not throwing touchdowns like Dabo said he was going to. But their defense was your, pretty much typical style Clemson defense before Brett Venables, left on to go to Oklahoma. But I think that the best thing that Buffalo can do is try to shore up their corners, and that's going to be with Andrew Booth.
Josh, I want to hear you say that quarterback's
Not happening. It's not happening. It's not happening.
When you give up a touchdown in 13 seconds, man, I mean, you get a whole rule change for you in overtime.
Yeah.
They were oof.
Yeah. I think that's what's really going to play into them taking somebody like an Andrew Booth at 25 is they're going to have that on their minds of, okay, what happens if we don't give up that touchdown right there? What happens right there? And so I think emotion will play a little bit into their pick, but who knows? It's the NFL.
We're going to stay on a little bit of a cornerback run here because I have the Tennessee Titans selecting Trent McDuffie out of Washington. We've talked about them dropping Julio, and I thought about taking a receiver, but we had a really big run on receivers, so I went in different directions. Tennessee's DB room is not. It's a little young. They've got Caleb Farley, who they took last year, and then Christian Fulton, who was out of LSU a few years ago. So they got some guys that pretty decent, but it's going to be really young. McDuffie ran a 4.4 at the combine, so you get a little speed in that room. I think that defense will cause some havoc in a, I don't want to say bad division, but you're playing against the Jaguars and the Texans twice a year. So if you can at least pick off Davis Mills like a few times a game, you're going to at least get 2 wins in that division easy. But it would be interesting to see them go quarterback here, because I know Ryan Tannehill is not a very big, a very liked man sometimes in Tennessee. But I went cornerback Trent McDuffie with the 26th pick in the NFL mock draft.
I like it. I personally probably would have taken a quarterback, just because, Tennessee really doesn't have a quarterback. They have some guy that claims to be their quarterback. I don't know. I just, Tennessee had Mariota for so long, and he, wasn't really what he was all cracked out to be. I don't know. I like the pick. I think it's a good pick. But if I were the Titans, I would probably try to fix my quarterback room.
Speaking of fixing a quarterback room, Trevor with a absolute shocker right here.
So there's no way this happens, right? Like, there's no way he falls this much. But I have at the 27th pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Malik Willis, quarterback of Liberty, falling to a year removed NFL champions as the successor to the now unretired Tom Brady, who came back. I don't think he'll drop right here, but Malik Willis is maybe, I guess you could say him or Pickett probably is the best quarterback in the draft. But he's speedy, and I know 2 Auburn guys here are pretty pissed that he left their program, and he was mucking it up with Hugh Freeze down at Liberty. So they know how good he is because they missed out. So I think, what do you guys think? Is he gonna fall this much, or do you think he's gonna somehow make it to the top 5, or like, what do you guys think?
Quarterbacks are notorious. It doesn't matter if Mitchell Trubisky went number 2 or 3 overall. So it really doesn't matter, like, if you're a decent quarterback. Like I said earlier, the most important position in the NFL, sadly, is quarterback. So I think somebody's going to trade up for him, and it could be. Tampa Bay's a luxury position right now. They've re-signed pretty much all their guys, and it's a little different than when you had Green Bay taking Jordan Love, because it was like, okay, the Packers needed something there. They needed weapons, as Jeffrey lets us know every year.
We didn't get one though.
But I don't think Tom Brady would take it the same way as Aaron Rodgers. I think he'd be like, okay, cool. You guys realize that we were 2 months ago. This pick makes 100% sense. And I think it still makes sense if he falls this far to just be like, well, might as well.
So I think the question really is, how much longer does Tom Brady have now? You saw him retire. Is he here for 5 years, 2 years? I feel like we don't know that kind of stuff. So
I really feel like that if the Bucks are able to win the Super Bowl this year, that is Brady's swan song season. He's like, I came back, we won the Super Bowl, I've got 8 rings now, deuces, catch me hosting a podcast or whatever he's going to do later, buy part of the Patriots and piss off Robert Kraft. I don't know. If they win the Super Bowl, there's no way Brady comes back.
So you're saying he wants the Peyton Manning treatment.
He wants the Manning. He wants the last dance.
He wants the last dance.
He wants
They're
to
gonna
go
make
out
great trivia.
as super. He wants to go out as the 8-time winning Super Bowl MVP quarterback,
I like it.
and that's how he is. That's why I was never 100% sold on his retirement at first. But anyway, Jeffrey, you have the Packers at 28.
Yeah, it's the first time I feel like since I've been a Packers fan, we've had multiple first round picks. But yeah, so obviously earlier in the draft, Trey covered up our the hole inside of all of our hearts with London, and so I think here, let's look at what we got at Green Bay. We got one of the best quarterbacks we will probably ever see play football, who's 36 or 37 at this point. A pretty mediocre running back core, struggling now wide receiving core. I said mediocre running back core, Trey. I know what I said.
Aaron Jones
but-
won me some games this year in
no,
fantasy.
yeah. Aaron Jones is good, but like if you look at other running backs in the league, he's not nearly as like ideal, I guess, for a championship winning side, which the Packers are striving always to be. But here I have Tyler Linderbaum from Iowa. He plays center, but he can also play inside in the offensive line. He's a big boy. He's 6'2", 296. Big Demi though is tiny for NFL lineman. He's a little bit undersized for a tackle or a guard or a center. Honestly, anywhere on the offensive line, he's kind of undersized. But one thing that makes up for that is his explosiveness and his ability to come off a snap. That automatically puts him in a prime position to get good solid blocks on nose guards or linebackers rushing in. I think adding some security on the inside, just looking out for the last season's MVP, Aaron Rodgers, looking out for his safety would be the smartest move.
All right. Number 29 is the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this is definitely not going to happen. If this does happen, I should drop out of college and go work for a sports betting company if this happens. But so the Chiefs get rid of Tyreek Hill. They've got Mahomes on this, massively long contract. They've got to find somebody new for Mahomes to throw the ball to. I think it would make sense if they pick up someone who runs the way Tyreek Hill ran routes, fits the same size build, and kind of has the football know-how. And I think the best person to replace that would be John Mechie. Now, that's kind of a controversial, hot take. I've seen Mechie falling all the way to the third round, which is very probable because, he tore his ACL in the SEC championship game against Georgia. No one really knew who he was until Mac Jones brought him to life during his magical season with him and Devontae. And then Bryce kept that up with making him and Williams the, 1 and 2 duo at Alabama. But I just think Kansas City would be really well served with someone as versatile as Mechie. What do you guys think?
I personally really like this pick. Like you said, I don't know the validity of this happening, but I think John Mechie pre-injury, you're looking at a first-round pick. I think I think that injury really kind of cooled his stock off a little bit. But I think he could be somebody that comes in there as like a major surprise in this draft, and then somebody. I mean, I feel like he'd be a steal if you got him this late at this point.
All right, next up we got Kansas City again. And just like kind of like Josh, I don't think this one will happen either. I think we're getting to that point in the draft where it's like, okay, like best player available. Kansas City on defense, really, could need some help. And DB, they've never really had some like studs out there. And I'm going to use my bias and pick the man himself, Roger McCreary out of Auburn. Had a really, really good season this last year. Auburn has been notorious in the last couple of years for sending guys to the NFL. You've got Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean on the Bucks, Iguanagani on the Dolphins. And I think Roger McCreary will continue that that trend. The dude he's a bigger corner, but he's really a man-to-man bump and run kind of guy. He's gonna beat you at the line of scrimmage. He's gonna keep you on your toes the whole game. So I think Kansas City really needs a guy that's gonna like lock down the number one receiver playing against them, because they haven't really had a guy that can do that. And they're losing Tyrann Mathieu. So that's a really big hurt. And I know they don't play the same position, but you need a lockdown guy. So I think Roger McCreary could do that for a while for the Chiefs.
So pick number 31 is the Cincinnati Bengals. So this is definitely not happening. I know we've said that multiple times here towards the intro. You just referenced that, but we have not had a single running back taken at all. And I don't think we're going to see it. But it's let's go Kenneth Walker, Cincy.
This is totally off script right now, by the way. Trevor went
Look, okay, Kenneth Walker is a stud, though. I mean, he's a Doak Walker Award winner this year. Like, this is not happening at all. I'm gonna laugh if it does, because that's like some serious forecasting. But yeah, Kenneth Walker.
You don't think Joe Mixon is enough for them?
I mean, he's getting older. I mean, like, I don't know. It's a dumb pick, I know, but it's just kind of weird that not a single running back has been taken, and I don't think anybody will be taken in the first round, but it just almost feels wrong. So, like, in a real draft, where do you guys think the first running back will be taken?
Second round.
Like early or mid?
Probably mid. It just depends on the team. You've got a lot of good running backs in the league now. I think Kenneth Walker's up there in this draft. You've got Breece Hall out of Iowa State. You got a few guys that are pretty decent in this draft, but not all world like your Derrick Henrys, Ezekiel Elliott's in the drafts previous.
All righty, guys. We are at the very final pick of the first round of the 2022 mock draft. Detroit Lions have a second pick here. I believe this was traded to them via the Rams. And so just looking at what they need, everything they're the Lions, if we're being honest. But Jared Goff is their starter up there at quarterback. I think this is my second quarterback I'm taking after Matt Corral. But looking at the style, looking at how Stafford was there for such a long time, and honestly was one of the only reasons they ever won games, him and Megatron up there. But I'm just looking at scheme fits and who I think would match pretty well with how the Lions play. And I think that's Sam Howell out of UNC. I was looking at a picture of him, and Trey, if you want to edit this in, man, he looks so much like Mitch Trubisky. It's ridiculous. Like if you guys want to look up a picture, he looks so much like him. But yeah, he's pretty small, I would say, for the average QB size of the NFL quarterbacks. He's only 6'1", 212. But one thing that I think he has going for him is his confidence on the ball. When he steps back, I think his confidence in his ball security skills helps his other teammates. That they're just always going to go and fight, which I think is an awesome thing to have as a quarterback. And if any team needs help with confidence, I feel like it's the Lions. The problem, I think he'll fit in at Detroit because of this. He takes too many unnecessary sacks. But I think that's just a thing that younger quarterbacks have to struggle with, especially coming to the league. But I think he'll be fine. I think that's probably the most likely out of the last 5 picks to happen that we've said. I don't think it's going to happen though, but yeah.
Well, all right. So we have come to the end of the draft. Any final comments on the draft before we move to the last thing really quick? No. All right. Real quick, Super Bowl predictions for the 22-23 season. Trey, we'll start with you. Give me your Super Bowl.
Super Bowl winner. I'm going Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo Bills. Jeffrey.
Chargers, Justin Herbert, MVP.
Trev.
We're gonna go The Last Dance. I know I said it last year with Rodgers and Devontae, but we got Tom Brady, The Last Dance. They're gonna make 30 for 30 movies about it. The whole shebang. It's happening. Bucks. Tom Brady officially retires.
I agree with you, Bucks. This is Tom Brady's season. This is, like I said, this is it for him. If they can pull off a Super Bowl win, this is it. Guys, any final comments before we roll on out of here? This? Anybody? No?
Sir.
Follow me on Instagram. Jeffrey S. Wills.
Follow Jeffrey on Instagram.
Hey, check out my Sports Illustrated stuff for Auburn.
Oh, yeah. I hit Trey up with that. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys and your loyal listenings to our once a year podcast. Maybe someday we'll do 2 a year.
Man.
But right now we're just sticking with our mock draft this time of the year. So we thank you guys for listening. This has been fun. See you guys later.